Right now, somewhere in America, a senior is sitting at their kitchen table looking at a bank balance that feels a little too small. Maybe that person is you. Maybe it's your parent, your neighbor, or someone in your family who depends on every single dollar that arrives each month from Supplemental Security Income. For millions of Americans, SSI is not just another government program. It is the difference between groceries and empty cupboards, between paying the electric bill and sitting in the dark. And for years, people have been asking the same question. Is Social Security finally going to improve the system? Well, something important just happened. After months of waiting, the Social Security Administration has finally provided a fresh update from the SSI Improvements Team, the group tasked with fixing problems inside one of America's most critical safety net programs. And what they revealed could directly affect how your benefits are processed, how quickly problems are resolved, and how future changes might impact the money that lands in your account. Now, here's the reason this matters so much to you and your wallet. SSI has faced serious challenges over the past few years. Long processing delays, confusing rules, beneficiaries stuck waiting weeks or months for answers, families struggling to understand paperwork that feels like it was written in another language. But this new update suggests that behind the scenes, a team has been working to change that. They've been studying the problems, listening to complaints, and trying to redesign parts of the system so it actually works for the people it's supposed to help. Still, there's a catch. Some of the improvements could take time to roll out, others may affect how future claims are handled, and a few changes could quietly reshape how benefits are managed in ways many Americans haven't even realized yet. So in today's video, we're breaking down exactly what the SSI Improvements Team update means, why it could affect millions of households across the country, and what you should be paying attention to right now if you rely on these payments. Because this isn't just a policy update. For many families, this is about financial survival, and the next few months could reveal whether these improvements truly deliver relief or simply raise more questions. Why SSI has been under pressure across America. Before we talk about the improvements, you need to understand why this update is such a big deal. The truth is, supplemental security income has been under enormous pressure in recent years. Across the United States, millions of people rely on SSI because they are elderly, disabled, or living with limited income. These benefits help cover essential expenses like rent, medication, and basic food costs. But the system responsible for delivering those benefits has struggled to keep up with modern demands. For many beneficiaries, dealing with the Social Security system can feel like navigating a maze. Applications sometimes take months to process. Appeals can stretch even longer. Phone lines get backed up. Offices become overwhelmed. And the people who depend on these benefits are often the ones who can least afford delays. Imagine being told that your application is still under review while your savings disappear week by week. That's the reality many Americans have faced. According to advocates and policy analysts, the root of the problem is a combination of outdated technology, staffing shortages, and complicated eligibility rules. Some parts of the system still rely on decades-old software that wasn't built for the digital age. And when a system like that supports millions of vulnerable Americans, even small inefficiencies can create massive problems. That's where the SSI Improvements Team enters the story. Their mission is simple on paper, but incredibly difficult in practice. Find ways to modernize the program, reduce errors, and make it easier for beneficiaries to receive the support they qualify for. But here's what makes this moment particularly important. The new update suggests that the team has been analyzing everything from how claims are processed to how information is shared between government systems. And if their recommendations move forward, it could mean a smoother experience for millions of people who rely on SSI. However, improvements in government programs rarely happen overnight. There are policy debates, funding questions, and implementation challenges that can slow things down. So while the update brings hope, it also raises a big question that millions of Americans are asking right now. Will these improvements actually reach the people who need them most? The answer could shape the future of SSI for years to come. Inside the SSI Improvements Team, most people who receive benefits have never even heard of the SSI Improvements Team. But behind the scenes, this group plays an important role in shaping how the system evolves. Think of them as problem solvers within the Social Security structure. Their job is to study the biggest complaints about the SSI program and develop strategies to make things work better. That includes reviewing outdated rules, examining processing delays, and identifying areas where technology can replace slow manual work. In the latest update, The team revealed that they've been focusing on several major areas of concern. One of the biggest is the complexity of the application process itself. For someone applying for SSI, the process can involve multiple forms, financial disclosures, medical documentation, and follow-up interviews. For individuals already dealing with disabilities or financial hardship, that level of complexity can be overwhelming. The improvements team has reportedly been exploring ways to simplify certain steps so applicants can move through the process more quickly. That could include digital tools, clearer instructions, and faster document verification. Another area they're examining is communication. Many beneficiaries have complained that they don't always receive clear updates about their case status. Weeks can pass without any information, leaving families anxious about whether their benefits will arrive. According to the update, the team has been discussing ways to improve notifications so beneficiaries know exactly what's happening with their claims. But perhaps the most interesting part of the update involves how different parts of the government share information. When agencies communicate better with each other, it can reduce duplicate paperwork and speed up decisions. And if those changes happen, it could mean fewer delays for people waiting on SSI approval. Still, none of this happens instantly. Policy changes must go through review processes, budget planning, and system updates before they reach the public, which means the improvements could be coming, but the timeline may still be uncertain. And that uncertainty is exactly what keeps millions of Americans watching closely. Technology changes could transform the system. One of the most significant themes in the new update revolves around technology. And this might sound boring at first, but for SSI beneficiaries, technology upgrades could make a massive difference in everyday life. Right now, parts of the Social Security infrastructure still rely on systems built decades ago. These systems were designed in an era before smartphones, cloud computing, and real-time digital communication. That outdated framework can slow down everything from application reviews to payment corrections. The SSI Improvements Team has reportedly been exploring ways to modernize these systems. That includes improving online services, expanding digital verification tools, and reducing the amount of paperwork that must be processed manually. Imagine applying for benefits and being able to upload documents securely online instead of mailing stacks of paperwork. Imagine receiving instant notifications about your case status instead of waiting weeks for a letter in the mail. Those kinds of changes could dramatically reduce stress for beneficiaries. Another potential improvement involves better data sharing between agencies. When information like income records or disability verification can be accessed electronically, it reduces the need for repeated documentation requests. And when fewer documents are required, claims can move faster. However, technology upgrades also come with challenges. Large government systems must be updated carefully to avoid errors or disruptions in payments. The last thing anyone wants is a system glitch that delays benefits for millions of people. That's why modernization efforts often move slowly. Engineers and policy teams must test every change thoroughly before it goes live. But if the improvements are successful, they could mark one of the most significant transformations in how SSI is managed in decades. And for families depending on those payments, that transformation could mean fewer headaches and faster support when they need it most. What this could mean for current beneficiaries. Now let's talk about the question everyone watching this video is probably asking: what does this actually mean for you right now? If you already receive SSI benefits, the Improvements Team update doesn't automatically change your monthly payment. The amount you receive is still determined by eligibility rules, income limits, and annual adjustments. But what could change is the experience of dealing with the system itself. Many of the proposed improvements are focused on reducing administrative obstacles. That means fewer confusing letters, faster responses to inquiries, and potentially quicker resolution when issues arise with payments. For example, if there is an error in your benefit calculation or your case requires additional documentation, the goal of these improvements is to shorten the time it takes to fix those problems. For beneficiaries who have experienced long wait times in the past, even small efficiency improvements could make a noticeable difference. Another possible impact involves case reviews. SSI recipients sometimes go through periodic reviews to confirm eligibility. These reviews can be stressful, especially when they require extensive paperwork. If the system becomes more automated, some of that verification could happen more smoothly behind the scenes. That would reduce the burden on beneficiaries who are already dealing with health issues or financial stress. Still, experts caution that improvements often roll out gradually. Some changes might appear first in specific regions or programs before expanding nationwide. So while the update signals progress, it may take time before the full impact becomes visible. But one thing is clear, the Social Security system is actively looking for ways to improve the SSI experience for millions of Americans. And that alone makes this update worth paying attention to. The hidden changes that could affect future applications. Now, here's where things start to get even more interesting, especially if you or someone in your family may need to apply for SSI in the future. While many of the improvements focus on helping current beneficiaries, the largest long-term impact may actually be on new applications. And that's where the changes being discussed by the SSI Improvements team could quietly reshape the entire experience. Right now, applying for SSI can feel like stepping into a long and exhausting process. Applicants often have to gather medical records, income statements, housing information, and proof of identity. After submitting everything, the waiting game begins. Weeks pass, sometimes months. For families living paycheck to paycheck, that waiting period can be devastating. The improvements team has reportedly been studying how to shorten the timeline between application and decision. One possible strategy involves better digital verification systems. Instead of requiring applicants to submit physical documents that must be reviewed manually, the system could verify certain information electronically. That means income records, identity checks, and even some medical documentation could potentially be confirmed faster. And here's why that matters for your wallet. When applications move faster, approved beneficiaries can start receiving payments sooner. For someone struggling financially, even a few weeks of extra waiting can mean missed bills or skipped medication, but the improvements could also introduce new procedures that applicants will need to understand. For example, digital tools might require online accounts or electronic communication that some applicants are not yet familiar with. That's why experts say staying informed will be critical. Because while modernization could bring faster approvals, it also means the application process could look very different from what people experienced years ago. And if someone in your household might need to apply for SSI in the future, knowing how these changes work could make the difference between a smooth approval or months of unnecessary delays. Why millions of Americans are watching these updates. Closely across the United States, SSI is more than a government benefit. For many families, it is a lifeline that keeps daily life stable. Think about the millions of Americans living on fixed incomes. Seniors who worked their entire lives but now depend on assistance to cover basic expenses. Individuals living with disabilities who face additional medical costs. Parents caring for children with special needs. For these households, SSI payments are not optional money. They are essential survival income. That's why every update about improvements to the program attracts so much attention. Over the past few years, concerns about processing delays, staffing shortages, and administrative complexity have sparked serious conversations about the future of the system. Advocacy groups, policy analysts, and even lawmakers have been pushing for reforms that make the program more efficient and accessible. The recent update from the SSI Improvements team signals that those concerns are being taken seriously. But here's the reason people are still watching carefully. Not every proposed improvement becomes reality. Government programs move slowly, and changes often require funding approvals, policy adjustments, and technical upgrades before they can reach the public. So while the update offers optimism, millions of beneficiaries are still asking the same question. When will these improvements actually reach us? For families living on tight budgets, timelines matter. If improvements reduce delays or simplify paperwork, that could immediately reduce stress for millions of Americans navigating the system. But until those changes are fully implemented, people remain cautious. And that cautious hope is exactly why updates like this one spread quickly across the country. Because when your rent, groceries, and medication depend on a program like SSI, every hint of improvement feels incredibly important. The challenges that could slow these improvements. As promising as these updates sound, there's another side of the story that many people overlook. Improving a massive national program like SSI is not simple. The Social Security system supports tens of millions of Americans, and any change must be carefully planned to avoid disrupting payments. Even a small error in the system could potentially affect thousands or even millions of beneficiaries. That's why improvements often take time to implement. Technology upgrades, for example, require extensive testing. Engineers must ensure that new systems communicate correctly with existing databases. Security protections must be added to safeguard sensitive financial and medical information. Then there's the issue of staffing. Local Social Security offices across the country have faced staffing shortages in recent years. Employees are often responsible for handling large numbers of cases, answering phone calls, and assisting applicants in person. Even if new tools are introduced, workers must be trained to use them effectively. Another factor involves funding and policy approvals. Some improvements require budget allocations or legislative support before they can move forward. And in Washington, policy discussions can sometimes take months or even years to turn into real-world changes. That doesn't mean improvements won't happen. It simply means the process can be slower than beneficiaries would like. For families relying on SSI, that waiting period can feel frustrating. But the fact that the improvements team is actively studying solutions shows that the system is at least moving in the direction of reform. And for millions of Americans, progress, even slow progress, is better than standing still. What you should be watching in the months ahead. If you rely on SSI or plan to apply in the future, the next few months could be incredibly important. Updates from the Social Security Administration often appear gradually. Small announcements, pilot programs, or policy adjustments can signal that larger changes are on the way. One thing to watch closely is whether new digital tools or service improvements begin appearing on official Social Security platforms. That could be one of the first signs that modernization efforts are moving forward. Another key indicator will be processing times. If the improvements are working, people applying for benefits may begin reporting faster responses or clearer communication about their cases. Advocacy organizations and financial experts will also be monitoring these developments closely. They often provide early insights into how policy changes affect real beneficiaries. But perhaps the most important thing you can do right now is stay informed. Many Americans only learn about Social Security changes after they've already taken effect. By that point, it can be harder to adjust or take advantage of new opportunities. Staying updated ensures you understand how potential improvements could impact your payments, your eligibility, or your future applications. And in a system that affects millions of households, information truly is power. Because when you know what changes are coming, you can make smarter decisions for your financial future. The bigger picture for America's financial safety net. At the end of the day, this update from the SSI Improvements Team represents something bigger than administrative reforms. It represents the ongoing effort to protect one of America's most important financial safety nets. Programs like Supplemental Security Income exist to support people during some of the most difficult moments in life: aging, disability, illness, or financial hardship. When those systems work well, they provide stability and dignity to millions of Americans. But when they struggle with delays or outdated processes, families feel the pressure immediately. That's why these improvement efforts matter so much. Behind every policy discussion and system upgrade are real people: seniors trying to pay for groceries, individuals managing medical conditions, parents caring for loved ones who need support. For them, the future of SSI is not just a policy debate. It's about security, stability, and peace of mind. And the latest update suggests that changes are being studied, discussed, and potentially prepared for the years ahead. The road to improvement may take time. Government systems rarely transform overnight. But the fact that these issues are being addressed gives millions of Americans a reason to keep paying attention. Because the next update, the next policy adjustment, or the next improvement rollout could directly affect the money arriving in your account. So if this topic matters to you, to your parents, or to anyone in your family who depends on these benefits, staying informed is more important than ever. The financial future of millions of households depends on understanding these changes as they unfold. And that's exactly why we'll continue bringing you every major update, every new development, and every important shift inside the Social Security system. Because when it comes to your benefits, knowledge isn't just helpful, it's powerful.